Watching Israeli News Live. Just wanted to update you this morning as we're following up on this chemicals gas attack, a chlorine gas attack that has been conducted inside of Syria. As you guys are well aware, we did a special about a month ago, as in the case of this video here, sarin gas attack in Syria. This was a several-part series that we were working on, although they do come under different titles, such as this one here. I'll try to put some of those in the links below. There was the clear evidence that proved that President Bashar al-Assad was never guilty, as the United States and their allies have claimed that he has used chemical weapons against his own people. And in fact, on the screen here, moderate terrorist Syria who supplied terrorists with chemical weapons is the question being asked, and you can see right over my shoulder there on the YouTube video there, that was a army base in the United States using the exact same, I'll take the cursor here, right in this area here, using the exact same launching system that was developed by the U.S. Army, and also was training the jihadists in Jordan on how to handle the sarin or chemical weapons there inside of Syria. And of course, they use that same thing to fire off these canisters with chemical weapons. There was overwhelming proof that Syria, and of course, we not only that, we go into Aaron Erdem in there. I believe that's on this part right here. Yes, right here. You have Aaron Erdem, who is Turkish MK minister there, or MP minister there with the Turkish government, where he is before the parliament dealing with the 2013 gas attack, where again Syria was accused, but Aaron Erdem of the Turkish government was accusing the former prime minister of Turkey, which was Erdogan, being the one behind releasing ISIS militants into Syria with sarin gas in hand. This video really has a lot of evidence that shows just the opposite. It's not the Syrian government nor Russia that has used these chemical weapons. Even going into the issue of Khan Sheikhoun, we go into that as well. We use the famous footage here of where the white helmets are decontaminating the victims, and they are real victims of these chemical weapons, but they were claiming this was sarin gas. As you can see, this man right here, let me blow the picture up so you can see it full screen here. He's barehanded, as well as these two guys are barehanded. This one's barehanded, and if it was sarin gas, as the doctors that saw this reported, these men would have died. So now they're changing this whole profile to chlorine gas to kind of protect themselves. We also went into the article from Seymour Hersh here. Seymour Hersh, who did Trump's Red Line, who really goes into a very detailed account of how this chemical weapons that were used at Khan Sheikhoun was fully aware by the U.S. government. The bomb that was used to take out the facility would have obviously left a massive crater in the road where they show this little tiny hole there. Again, jihadists responsible for gassing the people there. Now, I say that because already the State Department this morning or yesterday was releasing reports on the chemical attack in Duma, which is a little suburb there of Damascus. We continue to closely follow disturbing reports on April the 7th regarding another alleged chemical weapons attack, this time targeting a hospital in Douma, Syria. Reports from a number of contact medical personnel on the ground indicate a potentially high number of casualties. Now, the medical personnel are going to be the white helmets, including among families hiding in shelters. These reports have confirmed a horrifying and demand immediate response by international community. The United States continues to use all efforts available to hold those who use chemical weapons in Syria and otherwise accountable. The regime's history of using chemical weapons against its own people is not in dispute. Yes, it is in dispute. It is clearly in dispute, and it's not only in dispute by those of Russia and Syria, it is in dispute by American peace activists, American journalists, it's in dispute by Canadian journalists, it's in dispute by doctors, it's in dispute by an overwhelming number of professionals that know the evidence points the other way. And believe me, if it was Assad that did it, I would be right on the bandwagon with the State Department saying this man needs to be taken out. The Jerusalem Post is reporting, though, that the Assad regime denies use of chemical weapons in the Douma attack. They're putting on here that killed 35. That number has risen. BBC is now saying 70. If you look on the Twitter page that comes out, they're actually saying as high as 150 have been killed from this attack. And of course, that's a different article altogether, but I'll just real quick mention this as well. 2 U.S. soldiers were killed in a helicopter crash at Fort Campbell in Kentucky. Just so you guys are aware of that. Very sad news there. Certainly pray for their families. Very disturbing to hear that that's happened. But getting right back into this whole issue of these chemical weapons that are being used, you know, I know that we really want to believe that President Trump wanting to pull out of Syria was a very good intention on his part. He said, let those that are there take care of the issue. We're pulling out. But if you look at some of the reports that were coming out, even Lorenzo, who's an Italian journalist, friend of ours there in Italy, was saying that the U.S., as they're claiming to be pulling out, they're building more and more bases inside of Syria. So President Trump's words, his actions are opposite of what's actually being done there. So let me kind of real quick, I'll pull over here to Lorenzo's site there. Let's just see if we can't pull up maybe some of this information where he's talked about this recently. Well, actually, right here at the very top here, U.S. would not seem to leave Syria very soon, but conversely, recent satellite imagery out Tanp and surrounding areas reveals Washington's increased its presence in a war-torn country. And this is also on his website, which you can go to already-happen.com. You can follow a lot of the information that Lorenzo puts out here. But it is obvious that the United States was not planning on leaving. So the question is President Trump playing the American people to make it look like his intention was to leave Syria, knowing that they were planning on using these chemical weapons, not the United States directly, but the evidence that Seymour Hersh has brought out clearly seems to identify that this sarin gas attack was actually conducted by the jihadists that were trained by the United States there. Now, I will pull up that article real quick as well. I believe I have it on here. Yes, it's right here. This one here, we can pull that up. The red line and the rat line. Now, that one is dealing, I think, with the 2013 chemical weapons attack, the red line, the rat line. So it's not the one that I'm actually looking for. But there, if you go to that video, and we'll have it in the links provided there, you can look at where Seymour Hersh actually talks about the Khan Shaykhun particular chemical weapons attack. And of course, we have all these others that are in there as well that show the use of the chemical weapon. The Pentagon trained Syria's al-Qaeda rebels in the use of chemical weapons, confirmed by even CNN. I know a lot of people that hate CNN because they call it the Clinton News Network. But nonetheless, doesn't mean that the CNN doesn't bring out some factual information. The fact is, it's true. And it's very sad what we see happening in the world right now, and how that the propaganda is just overwhelming. In fact, one of these videos that we did regarding the chemical weapons that were being used. We bring out the different people like Dr. Henry Lohendorf, the peace activist of the United States, that says the United States is being fed a mass of propaganda when it comes to Syria. What is all this for? Your guess is as good as mine when it comes to why they're doing it. We know biblical prophecy clearly says that they would do this. They would divide the land. I'm not speaking about Israel either when it says dividing the land for gain. That is speaking the lands. It's in the plural. It's all through the Middle East there that they were going to do this, especially when you get into Daniel's prophecy in chapter 11. But friends, it's just a very terrible, terrible situation that we see that's happening there. Again, the attack, the death toll is rising. 70 have been suspected of being killed. The article does mention as many as 150. And of course, the blame, here it is right here, 70 people suffocated to death and hundreds are still suffocating, said Raid al-Salih, head of the White Helmets. An earlier now deleted tweet put the figure at more than 150. Again, you're dealing with the White Helmets, and there is overwhelming evidence that they are a organization that has been known to work with the terrorists inside of Syria. And the U.S. has really put, especially the State Department, breaking all rules, putting a spotlight on them and saying to watch East Ghouta and specifically to watch the White Helmets. They knew that it was coming, and we were warning you guys a month ago when the State Department said, told all the journalists, put a spotlight on East Ghouta. That's why we did our special broadcast, and they said, put a spotlight on the White Helmets. Because we knew that they were going to do something massive, and they wanted the world to be ready and on top of it so that they would spread this propaganda at an unbelievable rate. I'm very sorry to even have to say this. I wish it was the other way around. I love America, I love our country, but I hate to see, when there's evil there, you've got to call it out. I mean, even as the Bible says, that the cleaning, you have to start at your own house. Correction begins in the house of God, and this is where we have to do it. We have to start right in our own home and clean up the garbage that we have in here. So I'm very troubled at this, friends. Very troubled indeed. I'm Stephen Ben-Nun. You're watching Israeli News Live. Shalom. We'll be talking to you later again this evening as these things unfold.